What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today, with the launch of Act 2 of Episode Revenant for Destiny 2, we got some new content like the Tomb of Elders, new story missions, weapons, etc. But something else that we got that was brand new has really not been getting the attention it deserves, and that is a new exotic catalyst. Now, this of course is for the current Season's Pass exotic, the Alethonym. And here's the thing, guys. This has happened many times before, but this time, this season, the current Season's Pass exotic is cracked out of its mind. So giving an upgrade to one of the best exotics in the game is a very big deal. And so, let's get started. Now, first things first, we need to take a look at the base level Alethonym. And like I said, this is an incredibly good exotic. Like when this came out, people's minds were kind of blown. It was so good, in fact, that Bungie actually disabled it for the launch of the new dungeon. But what makes this thing so good? Well, honestly, mainly, it's just the way it is. It is what it is, gamer. No, seriously, the base properties of this gun are insane. It is an exotic primary ammo grenade launcher that has the mountaintop-like projectiles. So you don't have to, like many other breech-loaded grenade launchers, hold down the trigger and then release it near enemies or direct impact to get that explosion. Anytime you shoot this thing, wherever it hits, you get that explosion effect, which makes it so easy to use. On top of that, like I said, it's a primary weapon, so you get that grenade launcher effect, you get that splash damage, that great AoE, multiple enemies with one-shot capability. Oh, but you have infinite ammo, and because it's technically a primary, you would think maybe it does less damage. Well, that's where you're wrong, kiddo, because this thing actually cranks. It arguably is easier to kill enemies than the special ammo mountaintop. And why is that? Well, all primary exotics in Destiny 2 get a 40% damage increase against red bars. So this thing is actually really good for ad clearing. Then when we take a look at its exotic perks, it has Harvester's Spike, where it fires a special projectile. Dealing final blows with this weapon create a single vestige at the target's location, and impaling more powerful combatants with the projectile creates a steady stream of vestiges. Now, what are you doing with these vegetables? Well, what you're doing is you're actually, when you eat your vegetables, you absorb a lot of vestiges. As you can see, you fill up a bar. When the bar gets to halfway, you can hold reload and spawn special ammo, and when the bar is completely full, you can actually spawn heavy ammo. So not only is this just a good weapon at a base level, very good for ad clearing, perfect for all of the stasis synergies going on this season. Like this, if you're playing a Titan, is the perfect thing to spawn diamond lances, but on top of that, it's generating special and heavy ammo for your team. It is just a crazy good weapon on its own. It has been a very highly used weapon for the entirety of the season since it came out. Even in endgame activities, you really get the value of generating heavy ammo. Like often we've seen people run, their exotic slots on their armor for the Aeon gauntlets to generate heavy ammo. Generating heavy ammo is a huge deal, and the fact that you can just do this rolled all into one already good package for your exotic weapon slot is a big deal. So let's talk about the catalyst and how it improves it. So first of all, the catalyst is going to be unlocked at level 145 overall. Technically level, 45 levels into Act 2 of the Season's Pass. So once you have achieved that rank, you can claim it, and then you're not quite done. The next thing you will need to do is go and get a bunch of kills with the Alethonym, and then you can actually equip this catalyst. So I, of course, went to Shirochi and absolutely slayed out on the different Shadow Thrall. And you'll notice just, watching the gameplay, you can see, like, again, it's already just a good weapon at a base level for dealing with these ads, large groups of ads. Even though you have a little bit of a slower rate of fire, you shoot one round into a bunch of Shadow Thralls, most of them die. Then eventually, when you do get enough kills, you can actually equip the exotic catalyst, as you can see. So what does this new catalyst do? Well, it's actually pretty simplistic. It just gives this weapon One for All. So a quick refresher on what exactly One for All does. hitting 3 separate targets within 3 seconds will give you a 35% damage increase for 10 seconds. So that's actually incredibly good. Again, this is a simplistic catalyst, but the benefit it actually grants you and the impact on gameplay is a big deal. 35% more damage is actually one of the biggest damage increases that you can possibly get from a weapon perk. You know, Rampage and stuff like that, Swashbuckler, they're around 33%. However, with One For All, it really depends on how easy it is to trigger. Obviously, if you're using something like a sniper rifle, One For All is trash, right? Because hitting 3 different guys is a big ordeal. But here, with this being a grenade launcher, it is incredibly easy to trigger. Often, one single shot will grant you that 35% damage increase because splash damage counts. Like, to trigger One For All, you don't need any sort of degree of damage. There's not a damage threshold. It just looks at it and goes, oh, you've dealt at least 1 damage to this random enemy. There's your check mark. That's one of the 3 targets you need. And so as long as you shoot your shot into a group of enemies and the splash damage touches 3 different enemies, you just activate that 35% damage increase with 1 single shot. It is really easy to trigger with this weapon. Now, here's kind of the thing, because grenade launchers can divide into 2 separate playstyles. The one is stuff involving auto-loading holster, right? That's what we had with the Wither Horde when its catalyst got introduced, and that was a huge deal because you shoot your grenade launcher and then you put it away and you use your other weapons until it's reloaded in the background. Now, One For All really does not like that style of gameplay. Like, if you're someone who whips out your Alethonym, you know, shoots maybe a more powerful guy to get those vestiges spawning or whatever, anytime you see a group of enemies and then puts it away, One For All is not actually going to be the best because you really want to be having that weapon out. You want the second style of gameplay where it is what you're seeing in the background gameplay. You're just using this genuinely as a primary weapon. You're not stowing it all the time. You are shooting, reloading, shooting, reloading, reloading. Now, if you're doing that, you probably want to make sure you have a stasis loader on because you're going to be reloading so often, but that is really where One For All is at its most effective. It is so easy to trigger and it's so easy to keep up consistently with this weapon, and you will absolutely notice that damage increase, right? Like, there's a lot of times where before this catalyst, you're shooting into a group of enemies, you kill a few of them, and then there's always a couple left over with half health, right? With somewhat low health. With the catalyst, not so much. You're going to crank them. But also, that 35% damage increase matters a lot more against those more powerful targets, right? You can easily build it up against the red bars, then shoot an increased damage shot over at the yellow bars, you know, stick them, whatever, get those vestiges, but also you're just going to chunk them for a lot more damage. And the crazy part about that gameplay loop is that I remember when this thing first came out, one of the biggest things people were saying in its favor is that it just does a surprising amount of damage, right? Like, I heard so many people saying, why would I ever use the mountaintop now? This thing cranks, this thing hits harder than the mountaintop. So now you have that already surprisingly highly damaging, exotic weapon, now just doing 35% more of that damage. So if you thought it was surprisingly good at ad clearing before, it is just getting better at that feature. It is just hitting that much harder. So I really do think the introduction of One For All has made an already cracked weapon significantly better. Again, it much more, however, suits the playstyle of actually using this as your primary. Don't try to be stowing this all the time, using it occasionally. You want to be using this as if you would like a normal primary weapon. Like, treat this like you would an SMG rather than a grenade launcher in how often you're using it, right? Guys, that is going to be it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.